There's another royal baby on the way. Princess Beatrice and her husband, Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi, are expecting a child together.
So, you're scrolling through your feed and boom, big news drops. Princess Beatrice is pregnant. Royal watchers go wild, the congratulations start pouring in, and Buckingham Palace, in its usual polished manner, makes the official announcement. But wait, something's off. Something small but hilariously awkward manages to slip through the palace's famously meticulous communication team, and eagle-eyed fans don't miss a beat. The official post on X goes up with the joyful news. Beatrice and her husband, Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi, are expecting their second child together. But nestled in the carefully crafted message is a typo so simple, yet so ridiculous, that it instantly catches attention. Instead of Her Royal Highness, the post says Her Royal Highess. Just one missing N, but suddenly it's all anyone can talk about. You'd think it wouldn't be a big deal, right? A harmless slip of the keyboard? Nope, not when it's the royal family. This is the institution that runs like clockwork, where every word is measured, and every public statement is curated to perfection. So when something goes wrong, no matter how minor, the internet pounces. Within minutes, the post racks up comments, memes, and a whole lot of shade. One user quickly corrects the palace. It's Highness, not Highest. Do they not proofread before posting? Another one jokes, first Megxit, now Highest Gate. Buckingham Palace needs a better spell check. It takes just a few minutes before the palace catches the blunder and scrambles to fix it. The post is swiftly deleted, edited, and reposted with the correct spelling. Crisis averted? Not exactly. Now let's talk about the bigger picture here. Beatrice isn't just any royal. She's the eldest daughter of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, meaning that, unlike the William and Kate tier of royals, she exists in that gray area, technically royal but not working royal. She's not carrying out official engagements for the firm, she's got a regular job, and she isn't funded by taxpayers. And yet the moment she makes a move, she's headline news. That's the fascinating thing about her. She's part of the inner circle, yet just far enough on the periphery that her every step feels unpredictable. And let's not forget who she's married to. Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi isn't just some guy. He's a multi-millionaire property developer with deep ties to London's elite, the kind of man who knows exactly how to turn real estate into an empire. But that's just one part of the story. Because here's the kicker. He's also Italian nobility. And no, we're not talking about some distant symbolic title that no one takes seriously. Edo comes from the Mapelli Mozzi family, an aristocratic bloodline that once ruled parts of northern Italy. His father, Count Alessandro Mapelli Mozzi, competed in the 1972 Winter Olympics as a ski racer, but his legacy extends far beyond the slopes. The family's ancestral home, Villa Mapelli Mozzi, is an 18th century palazzo in Lombardy, a grand estate that Edo is set to inherit. And thanks to this lineage, he holds the title of Count, meaning by Italian tradition, his children inherit noble status as well. That's where things get interesting. Because while Beatrice and Edo's children won't be styled as prince or princess under British royal rules, they are still technically nobility. Their daughter, Sienna Elizabeth, already holds the title of Nobile Donna, the Italian equivalent of a noblewoman. It's a fascinating contrast. On one hand, these kids are growing up without the trappings of British royal titles. On the other, they are connected to a European aristocracy that predates the House of Windsor itself, and with baby number 2, another noble title is about to be added to the mix. Now here's where things get even more intriguing. This new baby shakes up the royal line of succession. Before this pregnancy, Beatrice sat at 10th in line to the throne, right behind her daughter Sienna. But now, with baby number 2 arriving, the order shifts. Beatrice moves to 11th, Sienna drops to 12th, and her younger sister, Princess Eugenie, gets bumped to 13th. And while this may not seem like a big deal, especially since Beatrice and Eugenie are unlikely to ever see the throne, it still carries weight. Because in the world of royal rankings, every new birth reconfigures the entire structure, pushing some further away from power while subtly reinforcing the dominance of those at the top. And speaking of family, let's address the elephant in the room, Prince Andrew. Beatrice's father has been one of the most controversial figures in recent royal history. His ties to Jeffrey Epstein and subsequent legal battles forced the royal family to strip him of his HRH status, his military titles, and his public duties. In short, he's been exiled from royal life, but his presence still lingers, especially whenever Beatrice makes headlines. Every major moment in her life, whether it's her wedding, a pregnancy announcement, or the birth of a child, inevitably drags Andrew back into the public consciousness. Her 2020 wedding was a prime example. Originally planned as a grand affair, the event had to be scaled down due to the pandemic. But let's be real, that wasn't the only reason. With Andrew embroiled in scandal, the optics of a lavish royal wedding were impossible to ignore. So instead of a televised spectacle, Beatrice and Edo quietly tied the knot at the Royal Chapel of All Saints in Windsor, with just a handful of guests, including Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. It was a rare moment of privacy for a royal wedding, but one that also spoke volumes about the complicated position Beatrice found herself in, trapped between her own happiness and the shadow cast by her father. But back to Beatrice herself, because let's be honest, she's the real story here. For years, she was seen as the quieter of the two York sisters, the one who stayed out of trouble, who didn't rock the boat. But in recent years, she has stepped into her own. She's juggling motherhood with a career in the tech world, having worked as the vice president of partnerships at an AI software firm. She's become a fixture at high-profile events, rubbing shoulders with A-listers and business moguls. And let's talk about her style evolution. This is the same woman who once got relentlessly mocked for the outrageous Philip Treacy hat she wore to William and Kate's wedding in 2011, a headpiece so meme-worthy it became an internet sensation. But fast forward to 2024, and the narrative has completely flipped. Tatler named her the best-dressed royal of the year, praising her sophisticated yet modern fashion choices, a full-circle moment if there ever was one. Now let's talk about how this pregnancy news even broke. Unlike Meghan and Harry, who dropped their baby announcements through glossy magazine spreads and high-production photo shoots, Beatrice went the traditional route, straight from Buckingham Palace's official channels. And that's what made the typo even funnier. For an institution that prides itself on perfection, this tiny slip-up made the whole thing feel oddly human. Fans couldn't help but laugh at the irony that, for all the careful planning, one rogue typo stole the spotlight. And here's where things get even juicier. This isn't the first time Beatrice and Edo have caused a social media stir. Just a few months ago, the couple was spotted doing something shockingly normal, grocery shopping at Marks & Spencer. Yes, that's right. A princess pushing a cart, casually shopping for dinner like the rest of us, and people lost their minds. Photos of the two wandering through the aisles went viral, with fans joking that seeing royalty at M&S felt like a glitch in the Matrix. It just goes to show, every move they make, no matter how mundane, turns into a spectacle. And just when things seemed to settle down, the royal spotlight swung back onto Beatrice and Edo in a way no one saw coming. This time it wasn't about a supermarket run or a typo gate. This was big, life-changing, history-shifting, royal family tree rearranging big, because boom, baby No. 2 had arrived. And not just arrived, but arrived ahead of schedule. Forget the early spring due date. Princess Beatrice's second child made an entrance on January 22nd, weeks before anyone expected. And just like that, the royal world had a brand new name to obsess over: Athena Elizabeth Rose Mapelli-Mozzi. Let's break this down because there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, the name. If you thought Beatrice's firstborn, Sienna Elizabeth, was the only nod to the late queen, think again. Baby Athena carries Elizabeth as a middle name too, a clear tribute to the monarch who shaped the modern British royal family. And then there's the first name, Athena, a powerhouse name tied to Greek mythology, symbolizing wisdom, courage, and strength. And honestly, kind of fitting for a baby girl who's already making headlines before she can even blink. But hold on, this wasn't just a quiet birth announcement. This was a royal baby, which means drama had to be involved. Athena was born several weeks early, raising instant questions. What happened? Was Beatrice okay? Was the baby premature? The palace, in its usual buttoned-up fashion, didn't fuel any panic, keeping things short and sweet. The baby was healthy and doing well. Beatrice was healthy and doing well. Everything was delightful. But royal watchers? They weren't satisfied with just that. Because, let's be real, this early arrival wasn't completely out of the blue. There had been signs. In December 2024, Beatrice suddenly changed her holiday plans. Originally, she and Edo were supposed to spend Christmas in Italy with his family, but doctors advised against it. Long-distance travel? Off the table. The official word was that Beatrice needed to rest. But now, looking back, was it because the doctors saw this early delivery coming? Maybe. Either way, instead of sipping espresso in a sun-drenched Italian villa, Beatrice spent Christmas at Sandringham, walking to church with the royal family, wrapped in a coat that perfectly concealed just how soon she'd be giving birth. Fast forward to January 22nd, and Athena makes her big entrance at 12:57 p.m. at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. She weighed in at just 4 pounds and 5 ounces. Small, yes, but healthy, which was all that mattered. And just like that, Beatrice, Edo, Wolfie, and Sienna officially became a family of 5. Now let's talk about how the news broke. Buckingham Palace went full traditional mode. An official statement posted on X, no frills, no fanfare, just straight to the point. But of course, it wasn't long before the floodgates opened. Edo, ever the proud dad, shared the first photo of Athena himself. A tiny bundle of perfection, wrapped in a pink blanket, resting peacefully. And his caption? Pure emotion. He and Beatrice were completely besotted with their new baby girl. And the internet? Equally besotted. Then came the family reactions. Sarah Ferguson, Beatrice's mom, wasted no time jumping in, overflowing with love, beaming with pride, gushing about being a grandma again, and of course slipping in a joke about her little five-a-side team because, let's be real, the Yorks love their family-centered humor. Princess Eugenie, the ever-supportive little sister, took to Instagram with a sweet and simple "Welcome, baby girl." And just like that, Athena had officially been introduced to the world. And speaking of titles, let's clear up some confusion. Athena doesn't get an HRH or a British royal title because of an old rule set in place by King George V back in 1917. Only the monarch's grandchildren, or those in the direct line of succession, get that privilege. But before anyone starts feeling bad for Athena, hold up, because she still has a title, just not a British one. Thanks to Edo's Italian aristocratic lineage, Athena is a nobile donna, the Italian equivalent of a noble lady. And if she had been a boy, she would have been a count. So while she won't be an HRH, she's still got some noble flair attached to her name. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Beatrice, despite being a princess, has never lived her life in a strict royal bubble. Unlike William and Kate, she and Edo have carved out their own independent path. They aren't full-time working royals, they don't receive taxpayer-funded allowances, they juggle normal lives, careers, and royal obligations all at once. And now, with a newborn in tow, Beatrice's balancing act is about to get even trickier. And let's talk about motherhood. Because if there's one thing people consistently say about Beatrice, it's that she's a natural. From day one, she embraced her role as a stepmom to Wolfie, making him a core part of her family dynamic. Now, with 2 daughters of her own, she's built a modern royal family that feels refreshingly real. A source close to the family once said that she and Eugenie swap parenting tips all the time. They call each other about meltdowns, bedtime battles, and all the chaos that comes with raising little ones. Because at the end of the day, princess or not, motherhood is a club that unites them all. But here's the million-dollar question. What's next for Beatrice? With Athena arriving earlier than expected, will she step back even more from the public eye? Will she embrace a quieter maternity period, similar to how she did after Sienna's birth? Or will she surprise everyone and make a public appearance sooner than we think? Well, we didn't have to wait long for answers because just weeks after Athena's early arrival, Beatrice and Edo were back in the headlines again. And this time, it wasn't about a royal event, a baby name, or a typo on the palace's Twitter. No, this was all about luxury, design, and a rare glimpse inside their stunning London home. Because Edo, never one to shy away from showcasing his work, dropped an Instagram post that had everyone talking. Edo's company, Banda Property, specializes in high-end, ultra-luxurious renovations. And when he posted photos of their breathtaking London townhouse, royal watchers got a rare peek into the couple's private world. This wasn't some stuffy, over-the-top palace-style home dripping in gold and antiques. Nope. Edo's design aesthetic is all about modern elegance, clean lines, muted tones, sleek, minimalist furniture that somehow still feels warm and inviting. The kitchen, marble countertops, state-of-the-art appliances, and lighting that looks straight out of an architectural magazine. The bathroom, cream-colored marble, subtle gold accents, and a layout so perfectly balanced that it looked like a spa retreat. And the living room, polished wooden floors, plush sofas, and a spaceship-like chandelier hanging from the ceiling. It was the kind of home that looked like it belonged in a billionaire's interior design coffee table book. And to make things even better, Edo himself made an appearance in the final photo. Sitting casually in the lounge area, dressed effortlessly in a shacket and sneakers, he looked every bit like the man behind the masterpiece. Fans flooded the comments, calling the home elegant, flawless, and a dream, because let's be real, this was peak goals. But here's where things take a turn. Because while Edo was basking in praise for his latest project, Beatrice's name was suddenly getting pulled into a completely different conversation. And believe it or not, it had to do with Meghan Markle. Yes, somehow, in the never-ending whirlwind that is royal drama, Beatrice found herself linked to the backlash surrounding Meghan's new Netflix cooking show. Now, if you missed it, Meghan had recently dropped With Love, Meghan, a show meant to bring her passion for food and home cooking to audiences worldwide. Sounds harmless, right? Well, not exactly. Because one recipe, a one-pot pasta dish, sent social media into a full meltdown. People called it bland, weird, and completely unrelatable. Critics tore it apart, chefs mocked it, and suddenly the internet had yet another reason to go after Meghan. And this is where things get weird. Out of nowhere, Edo's ex-fiancée Dara Huang seemingly showed support for Meghan. No direct statements, no public defense, just a quiet little Instagram like on a video that praised Meghan's pasta recipe. That's it. But in the world of royal drama, that's all it takes to set off speculation. Now let's rewind for a second. Dara and Edo were together for years. They were engaged, they had a child together, and then in 2018, Edo moved on with Beatrice. It was fast. So fast, in fact, that people were whispering about possible overlaps. And while everyone involved has remained respectful and drama-free in public, there's always been this underlying tension, at least among royal watchers who love a good storyline. So when Dara's name popped up in the Meghan conversation, people couldn't help but connect the dots. Was this a subtle dig at Beatrice? A little moment of quiet shade? Or was it simply a random social media like with no hidden meaning? No one knew for sure, but the timing was suspicious, and it added yet another layer to an already tangled web of royal connections. But here's the thing. While the internet was busy analyzing Instagram activity, Beatrice was nowhere near this drama. She was at home, settling into life with a newborn, probably more focused on late-night feedings than on pasta controversies. And that's what makes all of this so fascinating. No matter what Beatrice does, whether she's announcing a pregnancy, welcoming a baby, or simply minding her own business, she somehow ends up in the conversation. And that brings us back to the biggest takeaway from all of this. Beatrice may not be a working royal, she may not be the future queen, but she's a York, which means she'll always be part of the royal machine, whether she likes it or not. Her life, her choices, even her husband's Instagram posts, everything gets watched, analyzed, and sometimes twisted into something much bigger than it actually is. So, what's next for her? More family moments? More headlines? Another unexpected twist in the never-ending royal saga? Whatever it is, you can bet people will be watching. Because if this past year has proven anything, it's that Beatrice's world is never boring. And if you want to keep up with every twist, turn, and royal surprise, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. Because trust us, this story isn't over.